All right, let's kick it off. Again, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this first webinar in a series of webinars around warehouse and intralogistics safety. I am Evert Bilke. I'm the CEO of Rombit, and thank you for joining again. This first webinar is around safety and innovation in warehouse logistics. Rombit improves safety and efficiency for blue-collar and frontline activities. And very early in our development of the company, we saw that there were huge risks, safety risks, and also opportunities within that warehouse and intralogistics environment. So I am joined today by two industry experts around logistics activities. One is from academia, a researcher from the University of Antwerp. He'll kick it off. Is Charis Christodoulou. He'll kick off the presentations with a special around innovation in the broad sense of the word. And then second speaker today is Behzad Ganat. Welcome, Behzad. He's a risk advisor at Baloise Insurance Company. We have worked together with Baloise for a specific customer already, and we're looking forward to hearing more around broader risk management and opportunities in terms of risk and safety for that logistics space. First on is Charis. I will happy to introduce him, but just a quick practicality. We are open to your questions, obviously. All questions are welcome. Just put them into the chat. You can send them directly to the moderator, which is us basically, or into the group chat. We'll definitely take note, and we will answer those questions after the two sessions. So please be patient a little if you have some questions, and we'll address them in 25 minutes then. So first on is Charis. Happy to introduce you, Charis, again, researcher at the University of Antwerp, to give us a broad perspective on innovation in the logistics space. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Evert. 1 minute, please, to share my screen with you. Okay. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to talk about integration of digitalization in logistics, operations, and inland waterways. First of all, a few words about myself. So as Evert said, I'm a researcher at the University of Antwerp. I'm working at the Faculty of Business and Economics with a specialization in smart ports and in the navigation. So I'm a former maritime consultant with working experience in the UK, Greece, and Cyprus. I've been involved in the maritime industry for more than 10 years now. Today, we're going to talk about three topics. First of all, the challenges in port operations. Secondly, digital and smart technologies that are enhancing ports. And thirdly, economic implication of transitioning to greener and smarter ports. Although that my background is in ports and the slides are mostly dedicated to ports, I've designed them in a way that all these topics can be applied to various other sectors like warehousing, logistics, transporting. So you will see that the challenges, the technologies, and the economic factors that need to be taken under consideration are more or less connected to everything. So let's start with the first one. So ports are facing numerous challenges because of their complex environments and high-risk activities. I've identified the most important ones. I'm going to go through them, not in detail, but just to give you a flavor about what they are. We have, firstly, efficiency challenges because of congestion, manual processes, communication gaps. Then we have sustainability challenges. It's a hot topic currently, especially in the European countries. It's linked to high carbon footprint, waste and resource management, and regulatory compliance. Then the third challenge would be safety. And I've grouped them in a different way just to give you more examples about what challenges we're facing from that perspective. First of all, we have the workplace accidents, which are linked to heavy machinery, vehicle collisions, slips, trips, and falls. We have equipment malfunction and failures, again, due to aging infrastructure and equipment and lack of predictive maintenance. This is linked to the new technologies, the smart technologies, which we're going to talk about later. Obviously, we have the human factor, the human error. Most of the times is due to lack of training and awareness, and obviously, and of course, fatigue and overwork. And we have also hazardous material handling, especially in warehouses. We come across this quite often. So we're exposed to dangerous substances, and also we have a risk of fire and explosion. Lastly, security threats. So we may face unauthorized access and sabotage. We have plenty of examples about this. And one of the most important ones in today's world, cybersecurity risks. Now, I would like to talk about the digital and smart technologies that ports around the world are implementing, and the definition of smart ports. And as I said, these technologies can be implemented everywhere. We can see that are already part of a warehouse operations and other sectors as well. So what is a smart port? Is an umbrella term which actually refers to a port leveraging advanced technologies to improve their security, to reduce their environmental impact, to optimize their operations. The most important and most well-known and implemented technologies currently are the Internet of Things, automation, big data analytics, 5G, artificial intelligence, electrification, blockchain technology, and cybersecurity. Also, somebody may argue that we have digital twin, which indeed it's one of the most famous smart technologies. But my point of view is that the digital twin is a combination of the majority of these technologies. Quickly, some benefits from implementing these technologies. You get improved security, reduced labor costs, increased efficiency. I'm not going to go through all of them. Plenty of examples, many benefits indeed. This is a slide which I like a lot because it shows, and it's linked to what I was saying earlier about ports and warehouses and logistics, that everything is interconnected. So we're talking about a live ecosystem that each action affects the other part. So we can see that all the different parts are interconnected and how these technologies are affecting a decision or an operation or anything related to it. A few examples about key smart ports around the world. Obviously, there are more than this. It's just these are considered some of the most advanced ones. From the Canada and the States, Port of Vancouver, Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Europe, obviously, Port of Rotterdam and Antwerp, pioneers for smart ports, and then Port of Hamburg, Port of Barcelona, Port of Copenhagen, Melbourne. And from Asia, most probably the most advanced ports, the Port of Singapore, Port of Shanghai in China, and two South Korean ports, the Busan port and Incheon port. Just some examples. Again, I'm going to go through the technologies implemented in all those ports. A few examples just to give you a flavor and idea of what's happening there. So we have, they've been using Internet of Things and smart sensors for real-time monitoring, environmental monitoring, predictive maintenance. We get AI and big data analytics for better decision-making, predictive analytics for identifying safety risks and hazard detection. Obviously, we have automation and electrification. This is related, it is linked to any equipment in your, about your operations, so vehicles, cranes, forklifts, anything. We can talk about this. So we're aiming at reducing the human error, the accidents, to optimize efficiency, and obviously the environmental impact and safety. Digital twin. I talked about briefly earlier about this. So digital twin is a virtual replica of your operation. So it combines all the different aspects of smart technologies. So again, it can implement it everywhere, and obviously it helps in having more efficient operations, safety, everything actually that all the other tools are working on. Blockchain is it's being used largely across various industries. Is about transferring and transferring data, having more secure transactions, preventing fraud, unauthorized access. So it's a well-known and famous tool currently used in various operations around the world. Lastly, the last topic is about the economic implications. I'm sure that when you're hearing about transforming your operations, your port, your company, your enterprise into a smarter, greener operation, it requires capital. Indeed, it requires great capital, but the long-term economic benefits far outweigh the initial costs. Let's see some examples to get an idea on what we're talking about. So the initial investments require obviously infrastructure upgrades. So we're talking about electrifying or automating your equipment, your grid, your system. We're talking about implementing platforms, devices in order to use the new innovative technologies like IoT sensors. We want to use new devices. We want to take advantage of artificial intelligence, data analytics. All this, the infrastructure about obviously cybersecurity and blockchain. All these cost a lot. So it has to be that we have to take them under consideration when we're considering a new investment. Then we have the long-term cost savings. We're talking about reduced operational costs, so we have lower energy consumption due to electrification, automation. We have, again, decreased fuel costs. Again, it's linked to all these new investments, maintenance savings due to predictive tools, optimized operations, again, linked to these technologies, which are monitoring operations and based on AI, they're suggesting new ways to operate your business, lower emissions, and obviously environmental and regulatory benefits. Then benefits beyond the cost savings. So we have enhanced competitiveness, we are attracting new business, we have a better reputation as a business, we create new job openings, and we're helping local communities as well, and we are resilient against future disruptions. Best example I can give you was the COVID-19 pandemic. So everybody saw what happened and how many disruptions we had in the logistics sector. Finally, again, just a short example, a business that wants to invest in these new technologies to make its operation, more green, more smart, has to take under consideration everything. A simple balance sheet will show that the ROI is one of the main indicators to have a look at and take under consideration. And I want to conclude with one last factor that is not in my slides, but it's, I think, the most crucial one because people sometimes forget about this, and it's time. And when I'm referring to time, I mean the time that it takes to transform your company, your enterprise, your operation. So it takes time to implement these new technologies, these new initiatives, these new innovations. So it's the number one factor, the most important factor, I would say, that we have to take under consideration when we are working towards a new investment, and especially an investment like this. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Charis. Thank you for that broad perspective. There was a lot of material covered there. Really well done, Charis. Thank you. And mainly about that last point, I think that's really relevant, and I'm sure that everybody in the audience will recognize that implementing new technology, implementing anything new, basically takes time and change. We've also learned this at Rombit. Yes, we identify with your slide around IoT, around safety and energy reduction and predictive maintenance. That is exactly what we want to achieve with IoT. But IoT, the technology, is just one part of the equation. The other part is coaching people, guiding people in terms of change and in terms of success to get those ROIs. And that's exactly also what we have seen in the market with our 60 plus customers today. So thank you for highlighting this. Really helpful and really relevant. And I'm sure that our social media team will cut a few pieces out of your presentation to share online later on. Thank you, Charis. Now up to the second speaker of today, again from the Baloise Insurance Company. Really happy that he could join us for today. Because he will shed a different light on the same issues, not from a technology or an innovation perspective, but from a risk management and at the end of the day, also finance perspective. So Behzad, thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Everyone again. I think the introduction was clear for everyone. So I will go to the next slide. Yeah, okay. And I've mentioned also the number of the accidents in Belgium. So the average is 12 occupational accidents per hour in Belgium for all companies who are active in Belgium, and one fatal occupational accident per week. So at in Europe, you are not the worst in the class, but you are also not the best. So there's space to improve, of course. As a second part, I put the legal consequences and liability on the slide. Here we must make an important distinction between the criminal or penal liability and civil liability. It is important to know that both prevention and compensation of a victim are strictly regulated at national level in Belgium. And in this context, we will have the well-being law and occupational accident law that play a major role. But today, the rest of the discussion will focus mainly on the financial implications, and we will try to explain this as simply as possible without going into too much details. The intention is to make you aware that there are also a lot of hidden or indirect costs associated with an accident at work. If you look at the direct costs, namely compensation of the victim, you may ask yourself the question, isn't it all covered by the insurer? And that's the question I'm going to answer. Let's look at what's included in the occupational accidents coverage. I repeat that the insurance for accident at work is regulated by law, and that we present a simple presentation here of some issues that we pay. And if you want more details, I recommend you all to consult the product sheet and the insurance contract for the correct terms and conditions. But mainly, the insurer will pay the medical costs. It is limited to the health insurance fund, travel expenses for medical care, if there are prostheses costs. In case of a deadly accident, there are funeral costs. And then we come to the loss of salary of the victim, and we talk about the temporary work incapacity, and then we have to compensate the victim, the salary of the victim. And the last block, the compensation for permanent work incapacity, that means that there is a permanent injury, invalidity that we have to compensate, and that's the major part of the cost of an accident. You have to know that depending on the percentage of permanent incapacity, we have to pay the victim long life. So that's a lot of euros. And I also mentioned on this slide what occupation accident insurance does not cover, like material damage and moral damage. And it is nice to know that the average financial cost accident is about 9,000 euros. That's what we see in the files of Baloise. And yeah, it's remarkable that for accidents involving a forklift truck, the amount increased up to 15,000 euros. Now you are going to see what happens when an accident happens in a company. So you can compare it with a stone that you throw into the water. You will see some waves on the water, and it's the same with an accident. So there's an accident. And then what will you see immediately after the accident? The victim is absent, the colleagues interrupt the work, the victim goes to the hospital, there are first aids, and so on. And then, yes, there's some administrative obligations to do, like the reporting of the accident. The prevention advisor will also examine the accident and will report it also at a management level. You have also to report it to the insurance and so on. So a lot of administrative issues to do. If there are equipments damaged, you have to replace it or buy new equipment. You have to reorganize the work in the shifts. So you have to give training to the replacement of the person who is absent. So there are a lot of things to do to restart the activities. And at long term, there's also impact on atmosphere. It can cause also stress by colleagues. There's a loss of image of the company, and maybe dissatisfied customers because of delay of the delivery. Now we will see a case, a real case. So a forklift truck hits a warehouse rack holding goods. The goods fall down and injure the driver. And that's caused a temporary work incapacity of 3 weeks. There's damage to the forklift truck and needs to be repaired. Damage to the rack that needs to be replaced. The destroyed stock must be replaced, and the fallen goods there were liquids that ended up on the floor and must be removed. You can use a model to calculate the total cost of an accident at work. The prevention advisors among us already know the 5 domains: people, equipment, organization, product, and environment, in which they are always looking for the causes of the accidents. It might be weird here on this slide that the arrows are in the other direction, but the consequences on a financial level can also be found in one of these 5 domains, such as the cost of salary of employees, the repair of damaged equipment, organizational measures, products that are not longer usable, and the damage to the environment, in our case, the floor of the company on which products ended up. So you see there the total cost of the accident is about 10,000 euros, and you can see that the compensation from the insurer is only a small part of the total cost. As the iceberg principle usually is, 3/4 of the cost of the accident are invisible in the company or not directly related to that one accident. This brings us to the main message of this session. If you invest in prevention, you have to look at the whole picture, and you'll see that your investment will pay off. Because with your investment, you're going to guarantee the safety of and health of the employees. You will limit the liability or responsibilities that you have. Every time an accident occurs, the company incurs extra costs, and the profit is the turnover minus the costs. So if costs increase as a result of an accident, then the turnover must also increase to maintain the same profit. And at the long term, you can also limit the insurance cost. In workman compensation, both the activity of the company and the claims statistics play a role. The larger the company, the bigger the role of the claims statistic in the premium calculation. So that's very important to know that you will gain there financially part a lot of money if you have less accidents on the statistics. And there's also the effect on productivity, quality, HR aspects, image of the company, etc. There remains only the following question to ask: is what prevention methods should we invest, or how should we do prevention? My answer is simple. Follow the steps of your risk management model. Know what hazards and risks are present in your activities. Draw up action plans. I prefer to do it with the input of the people on the work floor. And here too, the legislation says which preventive measures should be prioritized. Respect the hierarchy of the prevention, which means that we must always tackle the risk at the source, and then provide collective and personal protective equipment if it's necessary. The instructions and training are a must, but what also is a must is investing in behavior and safety culture to have fewer accidents. Because when it comes to the causes of the accidents, we often see that the human aspect caused the accident. Here, for the prevention measures, I will give the example of a warehouse environment. It would be ideal to have automatic logistic systems or equip the forklifts with safety gadgets. I also see that more and more companies invest in circulation plans and separation, and the separation of the flow of walking person and vehicles. But finally, the driver's driving behavior will determine whether there is an incident or accident in your company. By writing down a very clear rules and observing the driver's behavior, you can adjust the situation and on an individual level, of course, of the employee. I also recommend to investigate all accident incidents as much as possible, and drawing lessons from each accident. And the risk management system is a dynamic system, very important. It must be constantly monitored because the situation and people change and are not a constant, obviously. Well, I hope that my presentation has confirmed your insights on the importance of working safely and prevention, or has provided new insights. And if there are any questions, I'm glad to hear.
Thank you, Izzat. Happy to have you in the room over here. Hopefully the 5 minutes delay just before the presentation weren't too much of a hassle for everybody. But thank you for joining. We have a number of questions here, and I'll just quickly go through them. We already had 2 questions for Gijs. Let's see if there are any other questions for Bezat. Yes, this one, I think this is a good one. Bezat, one for you. You mentioned that indirect costs often exceed the direct costs of an accident. How can the iceberg principle help us identify and reduce the indirect cost of the workplace accidents? And what are some practical steps companies can take to reduce these costs? Is the question clear for you?
Yeah, the question is clear. How do you reduce the indirect cost of accident? So I think the answer is my opinion, also simple. It's by taking the same prevention measures that you take for preventing accidents. That's only you can't reduce the cost by taking insurance. I think when there's a lift truck, forklift truck that has an accident in the company, and there's an internal damage, you cannot insure that, so you have to pay it to yourself as a company. If you cause damage to a third party, you can decrease that cost by taking insurance. That you can do, but the main signal here is preventing any accident and incident to also reduce the indirect costs.
I think you've also mentioned that in the final part of your presentation, and thank you for deliberately mentioning driver behavior, because that's also something that we saw as a technology provider, that's the one thing that you really need to be monitoring constantly, basically, also because drivers often change. You have very limited available labor on that market. So especially if you talk about forklifts and other types of lifts and cranes, this is a big topic. So thanks for mentioning that. And that's also what we see as the number one topic in the market today. But still, I still have one question here from Lientje. What do you think is the reason why companies are still hesitant to take additional preventive measures, Bezat? What is limiting them?
What is limiting them? So the legislation is the main cause why companies do prevention. But they have to be convinced of the importance of prevention, and this is also the signal that I give to companies to oversee the investment costs and to see further that it will also have a lot of other advantages to invest in prevention. But I think that for some companies, it's all too much at the same time. So it's not, it's a matter of time. So you have to look long term. And there's also a matter of culture in a company. So many things depends on the highest level of the company, of the policy of the company, and there I see when the top manager is very preventive minded, so things will go like it goes, should go, and the other companies isn't, and that depends of the CEO, the top manager.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of examples of companies moving only after a fatal incident. For instance, I was surprised basically that in Belgium, which is a tiny company, not a company, a country, a tiny country, we still have one fatal accident in the workplace a day. So that is, I think, too much. And we see a lot of companies also acting when they do have a fatal or very serious incident. But indeed, it was, I think, really helpful that you highlighted that iceberg, because you have direct costs involved with an incident of 15,000, but obviously the indirect costs are typically a multiple of that. So I think that's also very helpful to understand in terms of, is this something for me? Do I need to invest in prevention? Well, there's definitely a return on investment, but you have to look for it. So that's also something that we see. We are 10 minutes from the hour. I believe we have time for one more question, maybe one more for Charis. Charis, you talked about predictive maintenance quite a bit during your presentation. I think everybody understands a little what the concept of predictive maintenance is, but why is it so important in port logistics environment to invest in predictive maintenance? Is there so much cost saving involved?
Definitely. It's really important. So first of all, we're talking about safety. So predictive maintenance can help to reduce work accidents, accidents happening during the operations, any operations, I would say. That's one bit. So we're saving on that part, on the safety part, and then we're talking about maintenance costs. So and as an indirect cost, operational costs, because knowing when do we need to maintain a machine, some equipment, anything related to our operations, we are one step ahead. So we will save time and cost on replacing either a faulty vehicle, a faulty crane, a faulty forklift, and we will reduce our costs, our indirect costs from our continuous operations. So everybody's looking for having a continuous operation, serving its clients, delivering its products, delivering its services. So predictive maintenance saves you time and obviously cost in all of these aspects. It's really important. It's something that we can get, and we can see that especially in ports from IoT, and that's why it's really important. Monitoring devices, which we see in practice nowadays. So for a few years now, we can see that the majority of the logistic companies and ports are aiming towards installing this kind of devices to monitor their equipment, to monitor the conditions of their operations. So indeed, it's really important to have them.
Thank you, Charis. Just from an anecdote, I was just looking for it, but
For a bigger lift or a forklift like a straddle carrier, we have a customer that pays over 40,000 euros, so that's $45,000 a year on tires alone. So if you adjust the driving behavior just a little bit to save on those tires, there's a big business case there, and that's per piece of equipment. So if you have 10 of those, it's about 400,000 euros a year in terms of tires. So I think that often people are surprised by the height of the costs of maintaining these big industrial vehicles and assets.
Evert, if I may add something, please. And that's why I was talking about direct and indirect costs, because what you mentioned is a direct cost, is changing a spare part of your equipment. But what people sometimes forget is the indirect cost, that part which may cause or will cause most probably delays in your operations, in your service line. So we need to have always in mind this. We have to take this always under consideration.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. The lost work time and productivity time is definitely something to take into account. Since we have 5 more minutes, I mentioned it was the last question, but it was actually the second to last question, because I just got a new question from Dries here in the audience. And I think that's really relevant, and that's probably one for you, Bezat. So I'm going to turn the screen. So where does the big difference in the amount of money for a normal accident or a regular accident and the forklift accident comes from? Because you mentioned 9,000, I think, and there's 15,000 for the forklift.
Yeah. The difference is that the forklift accidents are more severe, or the injuries are serious, and that is the part of permanent injuries that plays a role. There, when you have 20% of permanent injury, so that the cost will go up to 200,000 euros for a simple accident. So that's a difference, because we see that forklift accidents are more serious than other accidents.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Specifically, Charis and Bezat for joining us today. Fortunately, you guys were in our office so that we could accommodate for technology issues, always technology issues, even at a technology company. But anyway, we'll make sure to address them by the next webinar and make some changes there in order to have a smooth workflow. In any case, I'm very grateful for everybody's time here, the speakers, the team at Rombit, but especially you, the audience. There were quite a few people joining today, so I'm pretty happy about that. And we'll make sure to communicate the most important messages later on the Rombit LinkedIn and Rombit social pages. And please be on the lookout for the follow-up date of the webinar, which probably will be in 2 months from now. So end of November. We already have a few guests and speakers lined up, so make sure to join us then. Thank you so much for joining. If you haven't had lunch already like me, then enjoy the lunch and up until the next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.